In the heart of Renaissance Italy, beauty was a currency, and pale skin was its most coveted form. The sun-kissed complexion of the working class held no allure. True beauty lay in the pallor of those who toiled not under the open sky. This obsession birthed a dangerous ritual, a daily dance with deadly powders and potions. Ceruse, a concoction of lead carbonate, was the foundation of this pale ideal. Its application promised a flawless, porcelain-like complexion, effectively masking blemishes, freckles, and any hint of natural color. However, its beauty was a deceptive mask, concealing the slow, insidious poison it carried within. Alessandra Bellini understood this currency well. Each morning she embarked on a meticulous ritual. First, a thorough cleansing with almond oil, followed by a rosewater toner. Then came the ceruse, painstakingly applied and blended to create an even, alabaster canvas. The Medicis, powerful and observant, were not immune to the trends of the time. Lorenzo, Il Magnifico himself, understood the subtle power of appearance. He knew that a woman's beauty, or perceived beauty, was a reflection of her family's status and influence. Lucrezia Borgia, a name synonymous with power and intrigue, understood the game intimately. Her ethereal beauty was not a matter of chance, but a carefully constructed facade, essential to her family's ambitions and her own survival in the treacherous world of Roman politics. Isabella d'Este, the first lady of the Renaissance, approached beauty with a different kind of calculation. While she adhered to some prevailing trends, her intelligence and influence allowed her a degree of independence. She recognized the power of appearance, but she also understood the importance of substance and intellect. With the ceruse in place, Alessandra applied rouge, derived from crushed berries or minerals, to her cheeks and lips. This touch of color, carefully placed, created the illusion of vitality on her otherwise deathly pale face. The irony was stark. While noblewomen sought to erase any trace of sun, peasant women, who labored tirelessly outdoors, were naturally bronzed. Their sun-kissed skin was a badge of their social standing, a stark contrast to the desired pallor of the elite. Apothecaries thrived on the demand for beauty concoctions. They peddled remedies for freckles, wrinkles, and, of course, the coveted whitening lotions. The recipes were often guarded secrets, passed down through generations, their true ingredients rarely revealed. Alessandra was aware of the risks. She had heard whispers of women whose beauty had been stolen by the very paints they used. Yet, the pressure to conform, to secure a favorable marriage, outweighed her fear. Beauty, after all, was her most valuable asset. In the glittering ballrooms of Venice and Florence, Alessandra shone. Her pale skin, flawless and radiant, drew admiring glances. She was a vision of Renaissance beauty, a testament to the power and the peril of the era's obsession with pallor. But beneath the surface of perfection lay a darker truth. The pallor of beauty was, in reality, the pallor of slow poisoning, a grim reminder that in Renaissance Italy, the pursuit of beauty often came at a deadly price. The Renaissance silhouette, a slender waist rising to a full bust and flowing hips, was not a gift of nature, but a construction of artifice. At its heart lay the corset, or corpetto, a garment both essential and agonizing. Corsets were crafted from a variety of materials, reflecting the wearer's social standing. Commoners wore simpler versions made of linen or canvas, while noblewomen favored luxurious silk and velvet reinforced with whalebone, wood, or even metal. For women like Lucrezia Borgia, the corset was an integral part of their public image, a symbol of their wealth and status. The tighter the laces, the more refined and desirable the woman appeared. The pursuit of a tiny waist came at a terrible cost. Tightly laced corsets compressed the internal organs, restricting breathing, hindering digestion, and potentially causing long-term damage. Breathing became a shallow, labored act. The lungs, compressed by the constricting garment, struggled to draw in sufficient air, leading to dizziness, fainting spells, and chronic fatigue. The digestive system also suffered. The stomach, squeezed into an unnatural position, struggled to process food, leading to indigestion, constipation, and other ailments. Physicians of the time, while aware of some of the discomforts, often attributed these problems to female hysteria rather than the constricting garments. Even powerful women like Isabella d'Este, known for her intelligence and influence, were subject to the dictates of fashion, though she may have afforded herself slightly more comfort than some. The lives of common women demanded practicality. Their corsets, while still constricting to some degree, were designed for labor, allowing for a greater range of movement than the elaborate versions worn by the aristocracy. Art of the period both reflected and reinforced these ideals. Paintings often depicted women with impossibly small waists, perpetuating the image of the perfect Renaissance figure. Fainting spells were a common occurrence, a visible sign of the sacrifices women made in the name of beauty. Yet, rather than questioning the practice, it was often seen as a mark of delicate refinement. Men like Lorenzo Medici, while not directly subject to these constraints, wielded the power to perpetuate them, their gaze shaping the ideals of female beauty and desirability. The corset, a symbol of beauty and status, was also a silent testament to the suffering endured in its pursuit. A daily burden, a hidden torment, a constant reminder of the price women paid to meet the demands of Renaissance society. Beyond the deadly allure of lead, the pursuit of beauty in Renaissance Italy led women down numerous perilous paths. The desire for a flawless complexion often overshadowed any understanding of the potential consequences. Apothecaries, the purveyors of both medicine and cosmetics, often lacked the knowledge to distinguish between beneficial remedies and dangerous poisons. Many concoctions, while promising beauty, contained ingredients that would slowly but surely erode health. Rouge, essential for adding a touch of color to the face already whitened by lead, frequently contained mercury sulfide, also known as cinnabar. Prolonged use could lead to mercury poisoning, causing neurological damage, kidney failure, and ultimately, death. The damage wrought by these cosmetics was often mistaken for other ailments, further delaying appropriate treatment. Physicians of the time, lacking modern understanding, struggled to connect skin problems, neurological issues, and internal organ failure with the beauty practices their patients employed. Isabella d'Este, known for her intellect and patronage of the arts, displayed a nuanced approach to beauty. While she adhered to certain standards, she also exhibited a curiosity for the natural world, a stark contrast to the blind faith many placed in dangerous concoctions. Beyond cosmetics, arsenic found its way into skin treatments, promising to erase blemishes and create a porcelain-like complexion. Its slow, insidious effects made it difficult to detect, allowing it to silently ravage the body from within. The cumulative effect of these toxins took its toll. Women like Alessandra, dedicated to achieving the fashionable pallor, unwittingly poisoned themselves, sacrificing their health for fleeting beauty. Medical knowledge during the Renaissance was limited, and often based on flawed theories and superstitions. The connection between cosmetics and health problems remained largely unexplored, leaving women vulnerable to the dangers they concealed. Isabella d'Este fostered a culture of inquiry, inviting scientists and scholars to her court. Her interest in botany and natural remedies provided her with alternative approaches to health and beauty, distancing herself from some of the era's most dangerous trends. The lack of regulation surrounding cosmetics allowed unscrupulous artisans to use whatever ingredients were cheapest and most readily available, regardless of their toxicity. The hidden cost of Renaissance beauty was measured in lives cut short. The pursuit of an ideal, fueled by societal pressure and medical ignorance, claimed countless victims, their stories often lost to history. Even those at the highest echelons of society, like Lucrezia Borgia, were not immune to the pressures of Renaissance beauty. The pursuit of perfection remained a constant, a dangerous game played by women across the Italian peninsula, with consequences that often proved fatal. The allure of beauty in Renaissance Italy came at a steep price. Lead poisoning, a slow and insidious killer, was a common consequence of the era's most coveted cosmetic, ceruse or white lead. Women, desperate to achieve the fashionable pallor, unknowingly subjected themselves to a daily dose of this deadly poison. The symptoms of lead poisoning were often misdiagnosed or attributed to other ailments. Headaches, abdominal pain, fatigue, and even paralysis were dismissed as nervous disorders or the consequences of a weak constitution, masking the true culprit lurking within the very beauty rituals women embraced. Even women of the highest social standing were not immune. Lucrezia Borgia, renowned for her ethereal beauty, likely used ceruse to maintain her complexion, risking the slow accumulation of lead in her system, a silent threat masked by jewels and silk. Isabella d'Este, a woman known for her intelligence and influence, seemed less enthralled with the cult of pallor. While still adhering to fashionable dress, she appeared to prioritize her health and maintain a more natural, sun-kissed appearance, possibly aware of, or simply less concerned with, the extreme paleness that defined beauty for others. The relentless pursuit of youth was another driving force behind these dangerous practices. Aging was a social stigma, particularly for women whose worth was often tied to their beauty and marriageability. The first signs of wrinkles or age spots sent women scrambling for remedies, often turning to increasingly harmful solutions. Apothecaries thrived, offering a bewildering array of creams, lotions, and powders promising to erase wrinkles, fade freckles, and restore a youthful glow. Few understood the true composition of these products, or the potential harm they could inflict. Alessandra's dedication to maintaining her flawless complexion was beginning to take its toll. A persistent cough, a growing fatigue, and a subtle tremor in her hands were early signs of the lead slowly poisoning her system. Yet, the fear of losing her beauty outweighed the growing discomfort. Her family physician, noticing her declining health, could only offer vague remedies and stern warnings about vapors and imbalances, failing to identify the true source of her suffering. Driven by societal pressures and the desire to secure a favorable marriage, Alessandra continued her daily ritual, unaware that each application of ceruse was bringing her closer to a slow and agonizing demise. Whispers followed Alessandra, rumors of her failing health circulating among the women of Florence. Some pitied her, others saw her fate as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the price of vanity. Even Lorenzo Medici, a patron of the arts and a man of discerning taste, recognized the dark undercurrent beneath the shimmering surface of Renaissance beauty. The portraits that immortalized these women often concealed the suffering and sacrifice behind their flawless facades. Alessandra's story was not unique. It was a tragic reflection of an era where beauty was a weapon, a commodity, and ultimately, a deadly game. The pursuit of an idealized image had led her, and countless others, down a path of suffering and premature death, a hidden cost etched beneath the surface of Renaissance splendor. The suffocating grip of Renaissance beauty standards began to face subtle, whispered challenges. Not outright rebellion, but quiet acts of defiance, small cracks in the facade of powdered perfection. Some women, like Alessandra, found themselves increasingly conflicted, trapped between societal expectations and a growing unease about the price of beauty. The Church, while a major influence on morality, held a complex position. Sermons thundered against vanity, condemning elaborate makeup and extravagant attire as sinful distractions from piety. Yet, the Church itself was adorned with opulent displays of wealth and beauty, a paradox not lost on some observers. Within intellectual circles, a different kind of critique emerged. Scholars questioned the societal pressures that drove women to such extremes, subtly suggesting that true beauty lay not in artifice but in inner virtue and intellectual pursuits. Lorenzo de' Medici, a patron of the arts and philosophy, fostered an environment where such discussions could at least be entertained, if not fully embraced. Isabella d'Este, Marchioness of Mantua, while undeniably a follower of fashion, subtly challenged the rigid beauty standards. While she appreciated fine garments and jewels, she prioritized intellectual pursuits, patronage of the arts, and the exercise of power. Her slightly tan complexion, a subtle rejection of the deathly pallor so desired, spoke volumes about her independent spirit. Lucrezia Borgia, a figure of immense political power and scrutiny, navigated the treacherous waters of beauty expectations with calculated grace. Her portraits immortalized her ethereal beauty, reinforcing the ideal, but behind the carefully constructed image lay a woman aware of the limitations and dangers inherent in her role. The rise of syphilis cast a dark shadow over Renaissance society, impacting perceptions of beauty and fueling the demand for cosmetics that could conceal its ravages. The disease left its mark on faces, creating a desperate need for remedies, both real and imagined. The desire to mask the symptoms of syphilis drove women to increasingly extreme measures. Lead-based paints became thicker, rouge was applied more liberally, and silk patches, known as mouches, strategically covered lesions. The pursuit of beauty morphed into a desperate attempt to hide disease. Alessandra, increasingly disillusioned, sought solace in books and the writings of humanist scholars who questioned the obsession with external beauty. She began to experiment with a simpler style, foregoing the heavy makeup and elaborate hairstyles, a small act of rebellion in a world obsessed with appearance. Alessandra's choices did not go unnoticed. She became the subject of whispers and gossip, her perceived lack of attention to beauty interpreted as a sign of eccentricity or even moral failing. The pressure to conform remained relentless. Medical practitioners, while often ignorant of the true cause, began to document the devastating effects of chronic lead poisoning. The connection between cosmetics and illness remained largely unacknowledged, but the mounting evidence could not be ignored forever. Some physicians started to speak out, albeit quietly, about the dangers. Satirical plays and poems began to subtly mock the extremes of Renaissance beauty practices, holding a mirror up to the vanity and artifice of the court. Lorenzo de' Medici, a shrewd observer of human nature, recognized the power of satire to influence public opinion, even if only in small measures. For Alessandra and a few others, the whispers of rebellion grew into a quiet determination to define beauty on their own terms. They sought refuge in simplicity, intellect, and a connection to the natural world, finding solace in a world beyond the painted face and the gilded cage. The seeds of change, though small, had been sown. Lorenzo de' Medici, Il Magnifico, understood the power of beauty, not just in its aesthetic form but as a tool of influence, a reflection of his own magnificent rule. He shaped Florence not only with political acumen, but with a discerning eye for artistic excellence, an eye that subtly dictated what was considered desirable. Alessandra Bellini, like many women of her station, understood that her value lay, in part, in her perceived beauty. Lorenzo's patronage of the arts meant that women like Alessandra were immortalized in portraits that amplified the reigning aesthetic. Fair skin, delicate features, a certain ethereal quality that spoke of refinement and gentility. The artists themselves were influenced by Lorenzo's tastes. Botticelli's Venus, with her pale skin and delicate features, became an archetype of beauty. Lorenzo's court celebrated this ideal, reinforcing its desirability throughout Florentine society and beyond. Not all powerful figures were bound by the prevailing trends. Isabella d'Este, though acutely aware of beauty standards, prioritized intellect and strength. While she maintained a fashionable appearance, her influence stemmed from her sharp mind and political acumen, a subtle challenge to the notion that a woman's worth rested solely on her looks. Lucrezia Borgia, a pawn in her family's political games, used her famed beauty as a weapon and a shield. Her pale complexion and golden hair became symbols of the Borgia family's power, deployed to charm and influence those who sought their favor. Her image was carefully crafted and controlled, adding to the mystique and fear surrounding her. Lorenzo's influence extended to literature as well. Poets celebrated the pale-skinned ideal, further entrenching it in the cultural consciousness. Through sonnets and odes, the image of the fair maiden became synonymous with virtue and desirability, leaving little room for alternative representations of beauty. For women like Alessandra, the pressure to conform was immense. To attract a suitable husband, to secure her family's future, she painstakingly crafted herself into the image deemed desirable by Lorenzo's court and perpetuated through art and literature. The cost, however, remained unseen, a slow accumulation of poison beneath the painted surface. Male beauty standards in Renaissance Italy, while less fraught with the same dangers as those imposed on women, were still present. Men were expected to be strong, athletic, and possess a certain virility. Lorenzo himself embodied these ideals, a patron of the arts and a skilled warrior, a true Renaissance man. Sculptures of idealized male figures, like Michelangelo's David, celebrated physical perfection, setting a standard for men to aspire to. Strength and classical proportions were valued, a contrast to the delicate fragility sought in women. Isabella, ever the pragmatist, recognized the game and played it strategically. She understood that appearances mattered, but she refused to be defined solely by them. Her influence extended far beyond the realm of beauty, proving that a woman could wield power through intellect and diplomacy. Lucrezia's beauty was a carefully curated performance, a mask that concealed the political machinations of the Borgia family. It was a tool, wielded with both grace and ruthlessness, a reflection of the era's complex relationship between beauty, power, and deception. Lorenzo's gaze, both appreciative and calculating, shaped the Renaissance ideal of beauty. His patronage of the arts cemented these standards, influencing generations to come, even as the hidden costs of this pursuit continued to claim their silent victims. The Medici's Florence was beautiful, but its beauty was built on a foundation of artifice and sacrifice. Alessandra gazed at her reflection, the candlelight softening the harsh reality of her pallid complexion. Was she beautiful enough? Did she meet the standards enshrined in the very art that adorned her family's palazzo? The painting seemed to demand an impossible perfection. Lorenzo de' Medici understood the power of imagery. Art was not merely decoration. It was a tool to shape perceptions, to define beauty, and to project power. The idealized forms of goddesses and noblewomen, immortalized in marble and paint, influenced the very fabric of society. Lucrezia Borgia, keenly aware of the scrutiny she faced, understood the performance of beauty. Her portraits were carefully crafted to project an image of purity and allure, countering the whispers that swirled around her name. Beauty, for her, was a weapon and a shield. Isabella d'Este, a patron of the arts and a woman of considerable intellect, understood the nuances of representation. She commissioned portraits that showcased not only her beauty, but also her intelligence and power. Her portraits often deviated slightly from the prevailing fashion for extreme pallor, reflecting her own independent spirit. Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa offered a different perspective on beauty. Her allure was not solely based on physical perfection, but also on her inner life, hinted at by her enigmatic smile and the subtle gradations of light and shadow on her face. This challenged the purely aesthetic ideals of the time. Alessandra, compelled by societal expectations, attempted to embody the artistic ideals of the era. Sitting for her portrait, she mimicked the poses and expressions of the goddesses and noblewomen immortalized in paint. But the effort felt forced, unnatural. Lorenzo, ever the shrewd politician, recognized that art could be used to reinforce his family's power. He commissioned portraits that not only celebrated beauty, but also conveyed an aura of authority and sophistication, subtly shaping public perception. Lucrezia, surrounded by the grandeur of the Vatican, understood that even religious art reinforced the era's beauty standards. The Madonnas and female saints were depicted with idealized features, perpetuating the relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal. Isabella, ever the discerning collector, understood the power of art to inspire and educate. Her studiolo was a testament to her refined taste and intellectual curiosity, a space where beauty and knowledge intertwined. Alessandra, influenced by Isabella's example, began to question the artifice of her own beauty regime. Perhaps true beauty lay not in slavishly imitating artistic ideals, but in embracing her own individuality. The mirror of art reflected both the idealized beauty and the dangerous practices of Renaissance Italy. It was a world where the pursuit of perfection often came at a deadly price, where the line between art and artifice blurred, and where the true cost of beauty remained hidden beneath layers of paint and silk. Lucrezia Borgia, a name synonymous with Renaissance intrigue, was a woman whose beauty was as celebrated as her family was reviled. Born into the powerful Borgia dynasty, her life was a tapestry woven with threads of ambition, scandal, and the relentless pursuit of an idealized image. From a young age, Lucrezia understood that her beauty was a political tool, a weapon to be wielded in the complex game of power that her family played. The demands of maintaining her famed alabaster complexion were ceaseless. Lucrezia, like many noblewomen of her time, understood that a sun-kissed visage was the mark of the common laborer. Pale skin, achieved through diligent avoidance of the sun and the liberal application of lead-based cosmetics, was the desired ideal. Every day began with elaborate rituals to preserve and enhance her fairness, shielding herself from the sun was paramount. The ceruse, a white pigment made from lead carbonate, was a staple in Lucrezia's beauty regimen. This toxic concoction, while effectively whitening the skin, was a slow poison. With each application, lead seeped into her pores, accumulating in her system, potentially leading to a host of health problems, from neurological damage to organ failure. Beyond the lead, Lucrezia's diet, or lack thereof, further compromised her health. A slender figure was as prized as pale skin, and women often restricted their food intake to achieve the fashionable silhouette. This weakened their bodies, making them more susceptible to disease and the ravages of the very cosmetics they used to beautify themselves. The constricting corsets, designed to cinch the waist to an impossibly small size, further impeded her breathing and digestion. The pressure on her internal organs could lead to fainting spells, digestive issues, and even skeletal deformities. Yet, the discomfort was deemed a necessary sacrifice in the pursuit of beauty. Lucrezia's life was lived under intense scrutiny. The rumors surrounding her family, accusations of incest, poisonings, and political machinations, cast a long shadow over her reputation. Whether these accusations were true or merely the product of jealous rivals, they shaped the public's perception of her. Portraits of Lucrezia, commissioned by her family, served to reinforce the image of a beautiful and virtuous woman, a counterpoint to the scandalous rumors that swirled around her. These idealized depictions, often airbrushing away any imperfections, perpetuated the beauty standards of the time. The constant use of lead-based cosmetics began to take its toll. Lucrezia experienced headaches, fatigue, and digestive problems. While physicians of the time were largely ignorant of the true causes, they attributed her ailments to imbalances in her humors, prescribing treatments that were often ineffective or even harmful. The Church, while condemning vanity, held considerable influence over the lives of Renaissance women. Lucrezia, despite her family's questionable reputation, outwardly adhered to religious practices, seeking solace and perhaps redemption from the scrutiny she faced. Pregnancy, a frequent occurrence for noblewomen, presented its own challenges. The demands on Lucrezia's body, already weakened by years of restrictive beauty practices, were immense. Childbirth was a dangerous ordeal, and the risk of complications was significantly higher for women whose health had been compromised. Ultimately, Lucrezia Borgia's life, though marked by privilege and power, was not immune to the hidden costs of Renaissance beauty. The relentless pursuit of an idealized image, combined with the medical ignorance of the era, contributed to the health struggles she endured throughout her life. Lucrezia Borgia died at the age of 39, a death many historians believe was hastened by the complications of childbirth and the long-term effects of the toxic beauty practices she adhered to throughout her life. Her legacy remains a complex and controversial one, a reminder of the dangerous allure of beauty and the hidden sacrifices demanded by the Renaissance ideal. The remedies of the Renaissance, often a blend of folk wisdom and nascent medical theory, offered scant relief from the ravages of toxic beauty practices. Alessandra, like many women, sought solace in the whispers of herbal cures, hoping to undo the damage wrought by lead and other poisons. Apothecaries, the era's pharmacists, were the first port of call for women seeking remedies. Their shelves held a mixture of genuine medicinal herbs and dubious concoctions, often relying on ancient texts and traditional beliefs rather than empirical science. Even those of noble birth, like Lucrezia Borgia, could not entirely escape the consequences of vanity. While they had access to the best physicians, the medical understanding of the time was limited. Treatments were often palliative, offering temporary relief rather than a true cure. Isabella d'Este, known for her intellect and forward-thinking nature, cautiously explored alternative approaches. She studied ancient texts, seeking knowledge that might offer a safer path to beauty, or at least mitigate the harm caused by prevailing practices. Folk remedies, passed down through generations of women, offered a semblance of resistance. Alessandra experimented with natural ingredients, hoping to counteract the corrosive effects of lead with gentler, albeit less effective, alternatives. Secret circles of women formed, sharing knowledge and offering support. These clandestine meetings were a form of quiet rebellion, a shared defiance against the dictates of beauty that were slowly poisoning them. Even Lorenzo de' Medici, a patron of the arts and sciences, recognized the need for medical advancement. He supported physicians who dared to challenge traditional Galenic theories, encouraging the exploration of new treatments and approaches. The study of anatomy, still in its infancy, offered glimpses into the inner workings of the human body. Dissections, though controversial, slowly began to reveal the devastating effects of toxins on the organs, paving the way for a more accurate understanding of disease. Small acts of defiance emerged. Alessandra, weakened by the cumulative effects of lead, finally refused to apply the deadly ceruse, choosing health over fleeting beauty, a decision fraught with social consequences. Isabella d'Este used her influence to promote safer alternatives, commissioning perfumers to create natural cosmetics and advocating for a more moderate approach to beauty. Physicians began to recognize the link between beauty practices and illness, documenting the symptoms of lead poisoning and other cosmetic-related ailments. While cures remained elusive, awareness was the first step towards prevention. The pursuit of beauty in Renaissance Italy remained a dangerous game, but whispers of resistance and glimmers of understanding offered a fragile hope for a future where women might find beauty without sacrificing their health. Alessandra, surrounded by her herbs, represented the slow, burgeoning shift towards self-preservation. The pursuit of beauty, so fervent during the Renaissance, left an indelible mark. It was a legacy etched not only on the canvases of great masters, but also on the bodies and lives of women like Alessandra, a silent testament to the era's obsessions. Lucrezia Borgia's story, intertwined with power and beauty, served as a cautionary tale. Her life, scrutinized and often sensationalized, exemplified the price women paid when their worth was measured by their appearance and lineage. Isabella d'Este, a patron of the arts and a woman of intellect, navigated the treacherous waters of Renaissance beauty standards with a shrewd understanding of their power and limitations. She understood beauty's role in statecraft, yet valued intelligence above all else. The remnants of Renaissance beauty practices, the lead-based paints, the mercury-laced rouge, stand as stark reminders of the era's ignorance, and the deadly price women paid for adhering to its ideals. Alessandra, in her later years, carried the weight of those choices. The pallor she once so desperately sought had faded, replaced by the natural hues of age, but the memory of the sacrifices lingered. The medical understanding of the time, limited as it was, offered little protection against the dangers of these beauty practices. Remedies were often as harmful as the problems they sought to solve. The art of the Renaissance immortalized these beauty ideals, perpetuating a vision of feminine perfection that continued to influence perceptions for centuries to come. The echoes of Renaissance beauty standards can still be heard today, in the constant pressure to conform to unrealistic ideals, the relentless pursuit of an ever-elusive perfection. The lessons learned still require repeating. Lorenzo de' Medici's vision of beauty, interwoven with power and patronage, shaped the cultural landscape of Florence. He recognized beauty's ability to inspire, but also understood its potential to distort and deceive. The advancements in science and regulation offer a stark contrast to the unregulated beauty practices of the Renaissance, a testament to the progress made in protecting public health. A new generation is redefining beauty, challenging the narrow standards of the past and embracing diversity, authenticity, and self-acceptance. The deadly game of the Renaissance is finally losing its grip. The Renaissance, with its celebration of art, beauty, and the human form, left an undeniable legacy. But beneath the glittering surface lay a darker truth, a reminder of the dangers of pursuing unattainable ideals and the enduring need to value life above all else. The crimson lips and pale death are a permanent stain on beauty's canvas.